And welcome back, everyone. I am here with Lance Hill, CEO of Within 3. Lance, thanks so much for joining me for this fireside chat. Perfect place to start. If you could just tell me a little bit more about yourself and about Within 3, and then we'll jump into some of the questions that we have here today.
Sure. Yep. Pleasure to meet everyone. Thanks for listening in. So I'm Lance Hill. I'm the CEO and founder of Within 3. I'm a technologist by background. I've been in the life sciences and healthcare arena for going on 20 years now. And what I've always been passionate about, what our company does, is look at ways that communication doesn't happen very well in the healthcare arena, and most specifically within life sciences, and try to build technology solutions to solve those. And predominantly, those are virtual engagement sorts of solutions of different types, really specifically targeted towards different processes within life sciences.
Perfect. And I know we're here talking about virtual engagement today, and so I wanted to get your thoughts on a couple of different models here. We're about real-time, anytime, and hybrid methods, hybrid model methods of virtual interaction. Can you just talk to me a little bit about the differences within that?
Sure. So a real-time virtual engagement is like what you and I are doing right now. It's typically a video conference or a phone call or a web conference or webinar presentation. It's something where everyone needs to be in the same online space at the same time, paying attention, hopefully not multitasking, concentrating. Oftentimes there is a video component involved, so you can see some smiling faces and so forth. And everyone's extraordinarily familiar with those today, given the travel restrictions that we've seen over the last year or more. Anytime engagement is a bit different. So that's more like what happens on social media, where instead of everyone being available right now in the exact same moment online in a synchronous fashion or in a real-time fashion, instead people can log in and add to a conversation that unfolds over a period of days or weeks, review materials, take coursework, look at articles, a variety of different things, but they're happening, let's say, over the course of 4 or 5 days or a couple of weeks versus everyone is focused at 12 o'clock noon. And so the anytime sort of virtual engagement, the best anagram to that historically was email, was kind of the first sort of, back and forth virtual engagement. Social media took it up to another level. And now Within 3, we've taken that same approach. Online universities use that very frequently as well and applied it to life science business issues in a compliant way. And then a hybrid model is a mix of both, where you say, depending on what your needs are, I want to have a video conference or a presentation, then I want to follow it with deep online discussion with participants in a convenient fashion.
Mm-hmm. And clearly all of these different models have different benefits. Mm-hmm. Can you talk a little bit about how you prepare for each type of engagement and what are the benefits of each one?
Sure. Yeah. So a real-time sort of engagement, some of the benefits is that it best mimics what you might see if you were in a room together. It's really a meeting. So you can still have everyone kind of talking off the cuff. You can still hear people's tone of inflections. If you have the video cameras on and people are paying attention, you can still see their facial expressions and so forth. And the technology is pretty ubiquitous these days that if you have a decent enough internet connection, you can participate. Obviously, we've all been in real-time meetings that don't go well with echoes and noises in the background and people not able to attend and so forth. But the benefits are that they most mimic a live sort of experience. And preparing for them is done well. Preparing for any meeting type requires a bit more thought and planning to make sure that you're using the time wisely, that you're getting all the participation from everyone that you're expecting. If you're in a real-time sort of environment, you're making sure that the background noise and the production value is high enough to warrant the quality that you're looking for. And so being more thoughtful in the production of those versus just throwing everyone into a room is helpful there. And an anytime engagement or an overtime engagement is, again, where we're going to be having a set of questions, and people are logging in before breakfast, after lunch, during, in between patients, whatever, to engage with you on certain topics. The benefits of that sort of interaction is you are absolutely not limiting your interaction to only when people are available at a specific point in time. You're also able to get full participation from everyone. So in an hour-long meeting, if it's a video cast and you have 10 physicians in your meeting, at best, each one can talk for only 6 minutes. And you're probably paying them all for the hour if it's a paid sort of engagement. And in any time environment, you don't have that issue because there is no kind of competing for the airtime. You also have benefits. You're not worried about language. Those tools seamlessly translate pretty much all major languages, or 100+ major languages on our platform at least. You're not worried about time zone. You have the ability as well. You're not worried about people multitasking. So maybe I showed up at Friday at noon, but my head was someplace else. I was emailing, doing other things because I was busy. And I know anytime meeting, you don't have those pressures either, because people can engage when they have time, when their head is in the game, so to speak. So that's the benefits of that sort of environment. And then the hybrid model is kind of the best of both worlds, where you bring together the video interaction, the meeting, the greeting, trying to replicate some of the relationship based sides of it, but then kind of the deep, convenient, thoughtful interaction that you get in an online overtime environment.
Mm-hmm. And talking about sort of hybrid models also, where does face-to-face interaction live within a virtual first or a virtual forward strategy?
Yeah, a lot of pretty much everyone in the industry is trying to think through that, right? So at some point, the travel restrictions will lift, when that happens, what is the right mix of going kind of back to the way it was, so to speak, and having an emphasis on face-to-face and live meetings in hotels and medical congresses and things, but also what is the new reality? I think looking at medical congresses as an example, for many associations, the attendance at their congresses is at all-time highs because they've been able to extend those virtually. And so now companies are understanding that a great part of that population is going to attend virtually going forward. And how do we engage given that new dynamic? Mm-hmm. So I think really what we see in all of the polling that we've done, and I think we had done one previously at an event with Reuters, is that everyone understands that going forward there's going to be a mix. Mm-hmm. The idea that we're going to go back to a place where we're flying on planes everywhere for everything is just not feasible at all. And so the right question is, do you know enough about what these different virtual environments are good at and what they're poor at to know when to choose which, or how to mix and match them? The metaphor that I use a lot is you have different tools in your toolbox and you're trying to accomplish your goal. You're trying to get insights, you're trying to conduct training, you're trying to talk about some marketing messaging or competitive information, et cetera. What's the right mix of these environments? And as an organization, do you have the ability to execute across all three? And I think that's really what we're going to see is organizations having a competency in real time, having a competency in the overtime sort of engagement, and having that traditional competency in the live meeting as well.
And within that as well, there's the mix of understanding which is going to benefit which type of customer as well, isn't it? And understanding that we should offer this one to this one.
Yeah, that's a great point, because what happens a lot is, you think about it from the organization's point of view. As a company, what's the mix we would like to do? Maybe some of it's even cost driven. But the flip side of it is, what's the mix that our clients, our customers would like? How would they like us to engage with them, given that they have been also in a travel restricted environment for quite a long time? And oh, by the way, as travel restrictions lift, there's going to be incredible demand on their time. It's not like they've been, locked down for a year, just waiting for the moment to come back and meet with any particular company. And so absolutely thinking about it from the customer's point of view. I think what's universally true is that virtual technologies have allowed life science companies to reach more customers and potentially reach them more frequently, to reach different types of customers that may be at the price point of a live meeting. It's just not feasible to interact with and make them part of your strategy, part of your interaction. In virtual, that you can. So you see a widening of the engagement with different types of customers. Also, what's really interesting, we see this a lot of our clients will say, when we do a virtual online engagement with Within3, sometimes it's shocking to us which physicians, let's say, in a program that we're doing, speak up the most, because when we have them at the hotel, they're silent. But in certain environments, people thrive.
Yeah.
And so it's absolutely, that's a really, thoughtful insight is to look at it from the perspective of providing the right venue that the customer prefers in the right way, as opposed to only looking at it as what's my standard as a company that I want to kind of push out into the marketplace.
Mm. No, that I agree. I think just we're talking about sort of that pharma perspective there. How have you seen pharma and life science companies positioning their virtual engagement as restrictions begin to lift?
I think I would say there's a couple of headsets. There are those who say, I just want to go back to the way it was. And so everything that Lance just talked about, don't worry about any of that. I just want to go back to the way it was. And in my mind, sometime in the time frame keeps sliding, unfortunately, forward. At some point that'll be the case. And when I am ready to go back, the world will want to go back with me. So that's one headset. And even within that headset, I think people have begun to change over time as they've gotten more familiarity with what works and what doesn't work well. Then there's another headset that says, this has been a blessing in disguise, if you can say such a thing about travel restrictions, in that it's really propelled us forward to look at how to use different technologies that we otherwise wouldn't ever have really seriously integrated in our business, or at least would have taken us a much longer time to do it. And that's afforded us the ability to do so much more in a more cost-effective way. And I think the longer travel restrictions impact, again, not just the organizations, the life science industry, but impact their customers, I think you'll shift more from kind of the first school of thought to the second. We're already seeing that. We have a lot of clients who tell us that the status quo as it was is just never coming back.
Yeah. No, I agree in entirety.
That the future is first mix.
Yeah.
Virtual versus live.
And we've got a couple minutes left, and so I just want to ask one more question. Where do you envision the next major improvements in virtual engagement will be made? Whether 12 months from now or 5 years from now?
Yeah, no, that's a great question. I would look at it, I guess, in two or three different places. First of all, is the whole point of having engagement is for people to engage. And so having people attend a meeting as an example, but not actually engage, is not so valuable unless your whole point for the meeting is to present versus have people talk and discuss and think and interact with you. And so one of the things that I think virtual technologies can always be improving with is driving better engagement rates, so that when you have an important audience of customers that you want to engage with, they do, because the way the venues are set up and the way they're executed promote maximum engagement. So in our technology, as an example, we get 90% participation in 90% of Within3 engagements. And the vast majority of those are all customers that don't actually work for our end clients. So that's one place, but that can be better, and it can always be better. We're investing a lot there. The second thing is, in a virtual setting, the output. So this podcast, as an example, is being recorded. Given that it's recorded, there are things that you can do to make it easier to take the essence of what was the conversation about, what were the thoughts, what were the key takeaways. There's a lot of work that can be done, we think, technologically on the content of virtual engagement to make it easier to answer the questions of why you want to have the virtual engagement to begin with. And so we'll be looking at some heavy investment there. I think over the next 5 years, you'll see a lot more kind of post-engagement sorts of technologies happening beyond just I can load the transcript up into a cloud someplace. And then I think the third angle, where I think with virtual engagement, I mentioned before, because you can be so much more pointed in who you want to engage, because you don't have the cost of flying and logistics and travel and months of planning. I think being smarter about, at the time that you need answers or you need thoughts, figuring out who you should engage with and making that connection happen, I think is another big important component for virtual technologies. So instead of just being, here's the meeting, use it if you can figure it out, or use it if you have access to it, I think a smarter way of understanding the business goals, making sure the right people are there, making sure when they are there, they're engaged, and making sure the result of that engagement is understandable and useful. Those are three areas I think that technologies will improve on in the next 5 years.
Fantastic. Well, Lance, I really want to thank you for spending some time with me discussing virtual engagement. If you want to learn a little bit more about Within Free, please head over to their virtual exhibition booth. You'll be able to connect with them. You'll find some more information about them. And of course, you'll be able to set up a meeting with them if you would like. Lance, again, thank you so much for chatting with me.
Thanks so much for having me.